Good morning. Korea finds itself in a diplomatic predicament over sensitive issues that involve the United States and China. Russian President Vladimir Putin put some 40,000 troops into action for 5 days of exercise drills, citing new security threats. Long hours at the desk, bad posture, and bad habits can lead to herniated discs. Even the number of younger patients is on the rise. And temple food is slowly and surely establishing itself as a popular menu. Alex Segrist has the details on Korea Today, Tuesday, March 17th, 2015.
From Arirang News, this is Korea Today.
And good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this Tuesday morning. I'm Ju with Kim Young and Kim Min-jung.
Thank you for tuning in. Some of you might not know this, but this week is a Salt Awareness Week designated by a global agency called World Action on Salt and Health. So basically the point is to reduce on salt intake, which can lead to various health problems like high blood pressure and diabetes and obesity as well.
That's right. So this week, this time around, the theme has been designated salt and children to reduce the amount of sodium intake, daily intake that children have. Children in Korea between the ages of 3 to 5 are said to consume some 2,000 milligrams of salt daily, or sodium daily, and also children between the ages of 6 to 11, 3,000 milligrams of sodium. The daily recommended average is 1,500. So cutting down would be the answer.
So no hamburgers and French fries this week.
Exactly.
Right?
Also, another one that actually is high on sodium is ramyeon. So if you could just use half of that soup pack in that they give you in the package, that would do a lot.
Now, experts warn that once children get into the habit of eating salty food, they can't change the habit when they get into their adulthood. So this is why it's important to eat a little bit bland or plain when they're young.
That's right. And speaking of bland food, in time for this Salt Awareness Week, we have prepared a segment on temple food, which is known to be low on sodium. So do stay tuned for that.
So low in everything bad and high in everything good, right? All right, now we're going to jump to our top story for this Tuesday morning. Korea may be in a predicament following meetings with China and the U.S. this week due to the possible deployment of a missile defense system and Seoul's potential membership in China's Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. In a meeting between Korea's deputy foreign minister and his Chinese counterpart, China explicitly voiced its opposition to the U.S.-led Terminal High Altitude Area Defense, or THAAD, deployment. Beijing is concerned that some of its territory would fall under the range of the missile defense system. Seoul and Washington say they have not held official discussions, but site surveys have been conducted with THAAD batteries already allocated for deployment in an emergency. China also reiterated hopes for Korea to join the AIIB, a move opposed by the U.S. as it believes Beijing could use it for political purposes. On Tuesday, Korean officials are set to meet with U.S. Assistant Secretary of State, but Seoul says the two controversial issues will not be discussed.
The United Nations Special Rapporteur on North Korea has urged the international community to keep its pressure on Pyongyang for its past abductions of some 200,000 foreign nationals since the 1950s, saying the issue needs to be resolved once and for all. Addressing the UN Human Rights Council in Geneva on Monday, Marzuki Darusman said the recent Commission of Inquiry report found that the abductions amounted to crimes against humanity. He urged the Security Council to refer Pyongyang to the International Criminal Court. North Korean Representative Kim Young-ho rejected Monday's address, accusing the U.S., Japan, and the EU of fabricating the report for political purposes. Following the council meeting, the special rapporteur said in a news briefing that he would also investigate allegations that roughly 20,000 North Korean workers deployed mainly to China, Russia, and the Middle East are working in slave-like conditions.
Korea's 30 leading companies say they plan to reduce employment this year due to higher labor costs and the extension of retirement age. According to a survey by the Federation of Korean Industries, the top 30 Korean companies plan to hire slightly under 122,000 workers this year, down 6.3% from the year before. 19 of the 30 companies say the reduction is due to the government's extended retirement age and increased labor costs, which include higher severance and overtime. The top 30 firms will increase investment in facility and research and development, a total of 120 billion US dollars combined, up 16.5% from 2014.
Good morning. It's time to run through the front pages of your newspapers now. Now, as the main story on almost all of the papers this morning is China's concerns over the possible deployment of the THAAD battery on Korean soil. But since you did hear the details earlier on in the program's headlines, let's move on to some of the other key issues that are on the local papers. We'll go ahead with a picture on 동아일보 to begin. The image is called Busan Innovation Center Kicks Off. Now, as part of President Park Geun-hye's drive to build a creative economy, the government, in cooperation with retail giant Lotte Group, yesterday opened Korea's latest innovation center in the port city of Busan. This is the 7th innovation center in the country, which has been set up to foster potential talent and support startup companies in the fields of distribution, film, and the Internet of Things. The caption adds that President Park's remarks from yesterday's opening ceremony, saying that she believes the Busan Center will become a base for innovation in distribution by increasing the value and marketability of both traditional and new products that represent Korea. And moving on to a top headline on Gyeongyang Shinmun. And this one says American economic scholars overwhelmingly agree on need for a minimum wage hike. And this story follows recent reports on the debate here in Korea about the necessity of raising the minimum wage in order to boost domestic demand, which the government thinks is essential, while local business circles believe will further shrink the job market. Let's take a look at the survey in detail. In the case of the U.S., according to a survey on 38 economic experts and professors from the University of Chicago Booth School of Business, opinions were almost equally divided, as you can see on the left, on whether or not a minimum wage hike would clearly lead to a reduction in employment. But regardless, an overwhelming 47% of them still believed a hike would be desirable. Now, this is somewhat different from the views prevalent among financial circles here in Korea, as just yesterday, the Federation of Korean Industries at a briefing explained that the government needs to focus more on creating jobs for the people rather than raising the minimum wage. And now let's go on to a side story on 조선일보. And this is about the oldest metalloid print, and it's called Discovery of Metal Type Print, 138 years older than 직지 심체 요절. Now, 직지 심체 요절 is a Korean Buddhist document which the UNESCO has confirmed to be the world's oldest existing book printed with movable metal type. If we take a look at the article closer, however, a claim has recently been made by a renowned bibliographer and director of the National Research Institute of Cultural Heritage, Hankuk, that there is an older metalloid type, which is another national cultural property called 중도가 that was designated in 2012. Pak yesterday announced that this piece is in fact not a woodblock book, which is how they had earlier evaluated it, but a metal type as well, which means if it receives official approval by the academic world, the history of printed publication will have to be rewritten. And finally, we'll go on to the Mail Business newspaper for a wrap with the top story. And this is called 115 students choose engineering department over medical school. And taking a look at the sub-headline here, the Daily analyzed data on 675 freshmen that entered the engineering department at Seoul National University this year. And it turns out that 115 of them had made it into other medical, dental, or Korean medicine schools, but still they chose to study engineering. Now, if we look at these sub-headlines, it seems that the students now view that the future of being a doctor has become much tougher in Korean society. Thus, there's been signs of such a resurgence in the engineering department over medical school, as students believe it will be easier to land a job or perhaps start a business after graduation. Now, that was a look at our local headlines this Tuesday, and following are the stock numbers from Monday.
But looks like midday highs will rise to as high as 23 degrees Celsius in some part of Korea. I don't know where exactly.
It's just amazing how the temperatures just change overnight. So one day we're getting sub-zero temperatures, and then 2 days later, we're all of a sudden getting these temperatures that are in the high
just
teens.
means spring is here.
I guess so, right? Okay, for a check on today's weather, we'll go to Chun Song-cho. She has more on that for us. Good morning.
Good morning, Song-cho.
Good morning, guys. It looks like even today, warmer than average conditions will continue, but toward the late afternoon, there's going to be less sun for us to enjoy. A low pressure system is expected to approach from the west and bring in a lot more cloud cover and even a chance of scattered drizzles in parts of the central regions. The rain will intensify going into tomorrow and spread nationwide all day, falling more significantly in the south coastal regions with showers expected from 30 to 80 millimeters. The Hallasan mountain areas are facing over 120 millimeters of downpours with strong gusty winds, so residents should keep that in mind and take precautionary actions. As awful as it sounds, all of this rain is good for us in a couple of ways. First, it's going to add some much needed humidity to the air as dry weather advisories or warnings remain in effect across the majority of the country. And it's also going to clear out air conditions that have been affected by yellow dust and high levels of particulate matter since yesterday. So temperatures will remain above seasonal average even after the showers end. So you can expect spring flowers to bloom earlier than expected. And now with that, let's take a close look at today's temperature readings around the nation. Currently, Seoul is at 7 degrees Celsius and will peak at 16 in the afternoon. Mercury levels will surpass the 20-degree mark toward the south, like in Daegu and Gwangju. The temperature gap between the highs and lows are over 10 degrees in some places, so take care not to catch a cold. This is all for me with the weather forecast. Back to you, Jinju, in the studio.
Let's now turn to the global headlines for following this hour and connect to the news center where Eunice Kim is following the developments for us. Good morning, Eunice.
Good morning, Jinju.
So after an 11-day absence from the public eye, Russian President Vladimir Putin is back and he's showing no sign of weakness.
No sign of weakness, that's right. And of the rumors that had swirled during his noticeable absence that he was ill, that he was away to witness the birth of his love child, he simply dismissed them as gossip and even joked that life would be boring without gossip. But President Putin also ordered a significant show of force, military exercises of full combat readiness of Russia's northern fleet in the Arctic, awakening to action some 40,000 troops as well as dozens of warships, submarines, and warplanes. Local media said the snap inspections, which will run for 5 days this week, come amid Russia's new security threats. That's citing the country's defense minister. Moscow's show of force, of course, comes amid worsening relations with the West and most recently military drills in nearby NATO member Norway. Meanwhile, the European Union reiterated on Monday that it would stick to its policy of not legitimizing Russia's illegal takeover of Crimea by recognizing its annexation. The EU also voiced concern over a military buildup and a worsening human rights situation in that contested peninsula. Prime Minister Shinzo Abe says Japan is ready to take on a more prominent role at the United Nations, that is, as permanent member at its Security Council. The Japanese leader made the remarks at an event in Tokyo marking the 70th anniversary of the world body. Prime Minister Abe said Japan was built on, quote, deep regret over the past war, but failed to clarify who that message was intended for. He went on to underline Japan's years of contribution to the United Nations and as a peace-loving nation to the world. He did not respond to earlier remarks by UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon in the program that urged the leaders of Japan, China, and Korea to push harder for reconciliation over past wartime disagreements, calling it the missing link for peace and stability in Northeast Asia. In a separate interview with broadcaster NHK, the UN chief called on Japanese leaders to adopt a broader future-oriented vision toward resolving historical matters at the earliest date to pave the way for the region's leading role in the 21st century.
Let's turn over to Vanuatu now. The president of the South Pacific Island nation is appealing for immediate aid from the international community after his country was devastated by a monster cyclone over the weekend.
Yeah, that's right, Jinju. Fresh numbers we're getting from its National Disaster Management Office puts the casualty figures now at 24 people, but it added that that figure could rise as communication was still being restored with outlying islands in the archipelago. Aid teams are just beginning to stream into the islands of Vanuatu, and the devastation just beginning to be assessed as well. Cyclone Pam brought winds of more than 300 kilometers per hour, wreaking havoc in the poor Pacific Islands, washing away roads and bridges, smashing buildings, and displacing some 3,300 people. President Baldwin Lonsdale said his country would have to rebuild from the ground up as the storm had wiped out all development made in recent years. Jinju.
Well, we do hope to see those recovery and restoration efforts to gain pace. Thank you, Eunice.
Sure thing.
Now, still ahead on Korea Today, excessive use of smartphones, longer hours in front of the computer, and many other causes are leading to a surge in cases of herniated discs, even among young people. But there are new treatment options that can relieve pain with less invasive procedures, therapy, and even medication. We'll be talking with a doctor, so stay tuned.
One of the few video artists to break into the mainstream international scene. And our Lee Sang-hwan joins us with more on this artist. He's holding an exhibition right here in Seoul. Good morning.
Good morning. All right, so Bill Viola, he was considered one of the pioneering video artists, really at a time when video art didn't seem very unlikely to become an art form. He's since gone on to become a legend and a leader in the field of video art, even being nicknamed the Rembrandt of video art. And he has a few pieces here in Seoul. Take a look.
Cascading in the wrong direction. Liquid flows from black to red to opaque white, finally becoming crystal clear. American video artist Bill Viola has for many years experimented with time and the human experience and the relationship between the two. He also points out how mass media has become a tool by which to witness the suffering of humanity.
Well, Buddha said, of course, all life is suffering. And a lot of other cultures have that same idea, because we need to suffer.
There's a unique characteristic to all of his works, images that invoke strong emotions and hints at a spiritual world in the midst of reality.
It's filmed very quickly, but it's shown at normal speed, so 1 minute is stretched to 10 minutes or even 80 minutes. It's a very special experience for the audience.
Viola even recreates the suffering of 4 martyrs, tortured by the 4 elements. And even though his works contain images of pain and sorrow, Viola wants them to represent the ideas of perseverance, endurance, and sacrifice in our mass media-dominated world.
So when we're talking about video art, we always mention the name Baek Nam-jun. And this artist,
Right.
Viola, his paths have crossed with Baek several times.
Right, so he actually served as an assistant to the legendary video artist Baek Nam-jun. But he himself, Bill Viola, also went on to become quite a legend as well. He's considered a master when it comes to art, dealing with electronics, anything to do with image and technology. And so one of his works that you saw in the report, Water Martyr, that's actually one of a 4-piece installation work that's permanently being housed at the St. Paul's Cathedral in London. So he really has works shown all over the world, a very accomplished artist.
Okay, so he uses a lot of the nature's elements, but to water, he actually specifically uses a bit more, to my understanding. Can you tell us the reason why?
Right, so when he was 6 years old, he said he had a near-death drowning experience, and instead of walking away traumatized like most people would have, he said he found it profoundly beautiful experience that he really had an influence on the rest of his life and his career. So you really do see quite a lot of water work in the rest of his works.
Okay, thank you very much, Uni, for that report.
You're very welcome.
So what's the buzz on Korea today? Well, this week is the Salt Awareness Week, and we're going to be looking at some very low sodium meals, and that's temple food. Is it becoming a fad, or is it becoming a trend? Well, it's becoming a part of food culture. Temple food is all about using nature's ingredients to the fullest, and this was showcased at a recent exhibition that drew in large crowds wanting to get a taste of this cuisine. So how has temple food established itself as a popular method of eating and why. Alex Segrist has the details.
Students who study international affairs and dream of becoming diplomats one day take part in the prestigious Harvard World Model United Nations, which is one of the biggest model UN conferences. And this year, for the first time, students from more than 500 universities are here in Seoul to take part in it, held in partnership with Hankuk University of Foreign Studies. And joining me this morning are the students who helped organize this event and their mentor. The students' names are Kim Se-young and Kim Ho-in. Good to have you in the studio. Thank you for joining us. Good morning. Hi. Now, for people who aren't familiar with the Model UN conferences, maybe you can explain to us what they are and what they aim to do.
Yeah, Harvard WorldMUN was started in 1992 at the beginning of post-Cold War period. Since then, college students from all over the world have attended this meeting and have discussed on the global peace and prosperity every year at different universities of 6 continents in the world.
So some of the brightest young minds getting together to discuss real world problems, right? And so tell us about this year's conference, maybe one of you. What is the agenda this year, and how did you choose this agenda?
Well, the keyword that constitutes the huge part of this year's WorldMUN would be development. Though we have 20 committees, there are some main agendas, and the development one is the biggest one. The Millennium Development Goals is the current goal for United Nations to achieve international development, but it has some problems with the scope. It's too microscope issue, so some nations feel it is not very close to them. But the new post-2015 agenda, Sustainable Development Goals, is interrelated to many countries and have common goals to solve the problem of poverty. And under this vision, many nations are acting very hard to solve this problem. And Korea is very meaningful to serve this kind of Model United Nations conference, because we are the model of this agenda. From a recipient of foreign aid to a donor now striving for the ODA, Korea is the exemplary case study for WorldMUN 2015 itself.
Just to add on to what Ho-in has just said, Professor Lee, what do you think is the significance of this conference being held in Korea this time around?
In my international relations class, I always explain Korea as a cold island of post-Cold War period. So if you want to study the peace in Korean Peninsula, you have to visit Korea, and you also see the DMZ and discuss peace with Korean students. So this is the right place to host WorldMUN. And also, Korea is economically a symbolic country of economic development. Developing nations mention the miracle of Han River, and they benchmark Korea as a development model. You know, so I think Korea is a good example of showing the result of global conflict and cooperation.
Right, and what kind of efforts are you making to make the results of your discussions more relevant and maybe convey it to the governments around the world?
We are dividing many committees, because if we deal with too many problems in one committee, it might be hard to give a relevant solution, you say. And for example, for the DISEC is the committee for the disarmament. We are dealing with missile defense, and we are providing our data related to Korean Peninsula, and that's why some of our sponsors are related to these parts, like Ministry of Unification and Ministry of Foreign Affairs is also sponsoring us, because we might give a possible solution that diplomats didn't give.
And the participants are guaranteed to have a little bit of fun on the sidelines. There are a lot of cultural exchange programs that are organized on the sidelines. Tell us about some of those and how that can maybe help promote Korean culture to the participating students.
Then I want to introduce one of the social events, which is the Global Village in the Hoops Obama Hall. Actually, like the delegates will have kind of the booth concept party. So around like 26 nations will have their own booth. However, like the concept will be the Korean traditional market, such as the Itaewon town, like which is kind of the old version of the Itaewon right now. So like we are preparing for the cultural performances such as Samulnori. So the Samulnori team will go around through the delegates so they can like get the experience of enjoying the whole cultural performances. And we are preparing for the Korean booth. So we'll give them a lot of Korean ornaments, and I want to show them how Korean beauty is. And I really want to deliver the message that K-wave is not only limited to the K-pop or kind of the Gangnam Style or kind of like little like tacky one. Actually, the Korea has their own heritage, and the modern and the coexistence of the modern and the traditional is very, very unique. For example, in the Europe, like they are really, really classic. However, like in the America, like they're really modern. However, Korea has a dual one, right? I think that is really, really special. So I want to deliver the whole message on that.
Fun and healthy discussions are planned ahead. So good luck to all of you, and thank you for coming out and talking to us this morning. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
At a recent auction in Hong Kong, a Korean painting was sold for some $800,000 US.
It was a painting by late Kim Hwan-gi, a pioneering abstract artist of Korea. Let's find out more about this piece with our Sami Surang, who joins us here in the studio. Good morning.
Good morning, guys. That's right. So $800,000. Now, it's an oil-on-canvas painting with a strange name, 3217, number 140.
It looks like some code.
I'll get to that in a minute. So if we have a look at this perspective, notice the simple composition and the lines that almost dissolve into the background. Now, Kim Hwan-gi was one of the first generation Korean abstract artists and was internationally recognized for combining Korean sensibilities with European cubism. His earlier works in the 50s and 60s that you see here were only semi-abstract. You can still recognize forms and landscapes, but his later works became increasingly influenced by Cubism, and it's these geometric paintings that he's now best known for. And as you can guess from the similarity, the painting that was recently sold is from that latter half of his career.
Okay, so let's get an explanation on those numbers.
On those
We're really curious about that.
Right, the password, almost like. So it gives you the date that he started the paintings.
Okay.
So for this one, he began it on the 3rd day of the 2nd month, so 3rd of February, 1970. And it's his 143rd canvas work that he produced during his time in New York, where he lived for the last 11 years of his life.
So does his do his other artworks have these similar codes?
They
like
do.
that?
The ones that he made in New York, the canvas paintings, they all follow this code. And a simple, little interesting trivia for K-pop fans. You know, Big Bang and Big Bang's top, they're distant relations.
Oh, really?
So his Kim Hwan-gi's nephew's grandson is Big Bang's top. So one of his paintings actually appeared on Top's music videos recently. Yeah, just a little trivia.
Interesting.
Now back here in Korea, a new high school system will be introduced in the capital. Seoul's education office announced yesterday that it will launch what's called an Odyssey School in May to give first-year high school curriculum. So this year, 40 students will undertake a curriculum composed of several prerequisite subjects together with a variety of experimental activities such as internship programs and self-directed learning. Then after this 1 year, they'll return to regular public high schools to finish their 2nd and 3rd years. And the Education Office hopes that this will offer another alternative to those looking for a more creative curriculum within the public school system. And wrapping up, a Korean hospital recently held an international seminar on Parkinson's disease treatment. Now, this whole National University Hospital is recognized in the international medical community as one of the leaders in deep brain stimulation, which is a surgical treatment method for drug-resistant Parkinson's disease. Now, since 2005, the hospital has carried out more than 220 deep brain stimulation cases. And using this extensive clinical experience, they held a seminar recently for neurologists in the Asia-Pacific region, teaching them about the basics of the surgery itself, as well as precautions before and after.
Yeah, it's great to hear about these achievements from the Korean medical community, and we do hope that they do make strides in treatment of Parkinson's disease.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, Misona.
You're welcome.
And a good Tuesday morning to you all as we kick things off with some domestic football news. Now, on Monday, manager Lee Sang-hwan was on the sidelines of an opening ceremony for a futsal field at a Seoul shopping mall and expressed his content over the attendance in the domestic league so far. Now, the 61-year-old head coach, who was on hand in two of the K-League Classic matches over the weekend, talked about how much the attendance has grown compared to last season when he first watched the domestic matches. He added that the rise in popularity of domestic leagues should also help the national team, as he hopes to see more and more fans head out to the matches throughout the season. Now, while the Incheon Itilan Elephants swept the Seoul SK Knights, the Goyang Orions and the Changwon LG Sakers went into a decisive fifth game of the best-of-5 series in the first round of the KBL playoffs on Monday. So let's take a look at the highlights from Changwon. Now, a must-win situation for both teams here as they go neck and neck in the first half of the game, with LG taking a slim 43-41 lead going into halftime. By the third quarter of the game, LG lighting it up from the field, outscoring the Orions 28-13 to take a comfortable 17-point lead going into the fourth quarter. But the Orions not giving up here, rallying back to take a slim lead in the fourth before a couple of clutch free throws from Moon Tae-jong and Kim Jong-gyu give LG a 3-point lead with just 8 seconds left. And unfortunately for the Orions, the desperation three by Leo Lions, not good, as the LG Sakers win Game 5 83-80 to advance to the next round. Now, after an impressive first spring start for the LA Dodgers, lefty Ryu Han-jin is set to go after a second spring start, and chances are he's going to be facing off against fellow Korean Choo Soo. Now, with the LA Dodgers facing off against the Texas Rangers tomorrow, the 28-year-old is set to make his second start after an impressive spring debut against the San Diego Padres last week. And a start against the Texas Rangers would mean facing off against Choo Soo, who's coming off of a poor first season with the Rangers and is looking to bounce back with a strong second season. Now, Kang Jong-ho of the Pittsburgh Pirates started off his spring great, but has been struggling as of late as his batting average has dipped significantly in the second week of his spring training games. Now, despite hitting a long home run in his spring training game and finishing off his first week of spring training games hitting .333, he's gone quiet in the second week of the spring games and is currently hitting .188 in 7 games so far, while striking out 4 times. But while his offense has dipped, his defense has been incredible so far, switching from short to third and showing a wide range in his defense as he's expected to cover 3 different infield positions throughout the season. And that's going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great rest of the day and see you guys again for your sports needs.
With the start of spring and the new school year in March, it's a time when a lot of people, including students and office workers, kick off to a new start. But it's also a time when the body can struggle as it tries to adjust to the new surrounding and environment. Elementary school students who are just starting class begin carrying heavier bags that, if carried incorrectly, can lead to deformations of the spine. And female freshman students who may start to wear high heels for longer hours can stress the spine's facet joints, leading to pressure in the discs. New office workers can also face more back pain, working late-night hours and frequently sitting on the floor for office dinners. If prolonged back pain is left untreated, it can lead to a herniated disc, which protrudes and compresses spinal nerves, causing pain. According to the Health Insurance Review and Assessment Service, over the past 5 years, patients with disc herniations jumped by more than 18%. With those in their 20s and 30s also susceptible to such conditions, back pain has now become a problem found in all age groups. From children to adults, back pain is now a common cause of discomfort. We'll get a look at how to treat it and stay in good shape.
Now, our back is considered the body's pillar, and that's why it's important to keep it in good condition. And to tell us more, we're now joined by Dr. Unsang Soo from Uridul Hospital. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Doctor.
Hi.
Good morning.
We all suffer from back pain from time to time. Right. That does not mean we all have herniated discs. What are some of the main classic symptoms?
Okay, this is a spine model, and between the bone there's a soft disc which gives the motions to the spine. And as the central part of this herniates, it could compress the spinal cord. And the compression of spinal cord, the symptom comes with a radiating pain. So the patient explains the radiating pain as a burning sense, numbness, or some electricity running. So in the cervical disc herniations, the pain comes from the back of shoulder through the arm to the fingers. And the lumbar disc herniation goes through the buttock, thigh, calf to the foot. In the severe cases, patient could not move at all, or it causes a paralysis of the ankle or any joint. And in a really severe cases, it could cause a dysfunction of urination or defecations.
Disc herniation is not just a problem for adults, but a lot of young people, students, are experiencing this as well. And we saw in the report that heavy backpacks was one of the causes, but what could be some of the other causes, and how can we prevent it?
If the children is complaining of back pain, heavy bags may be the reasons. And to wear it in a proper way, you should keep the strap tight so the bag stays on the back and the spine, and it fits well. And then it should be above the waistline. And the weight of the bag should be less than 20% of the child's weight.
And we all wear high heels from time to time. Not young,
Not me.
obviously.
Not him.
But right, and we do spend a lot of time sitting down in front of our computers. So there is a lot of pressure going into our backs, but we can't avoid that from happening. So what are some of the little tips you can give us to alleviate that pressure on our backs?
Okay, so actually the high heel obviously is bad for the health, but the ladies cannot give up. So the whole body axis, it puts it into the front of the body, so it causes a lot of burden to the forefoot and the spine also. So it is not recommended to wear them for a long time, and it's better to wear the comfortable shoes. And in an office dinner, you get to sit on the floor for a long time. So it's better to stand up in every hour, do some stretching, and lean on the chair or the wall.
Okay, so everything from bad posture to heavy backpacks and high heels, misuse or abuse of heels can actually lead to back problems. So we'll get a look at some of the treatment options out there that are less invasive and a little bit more comfortable.
Herniated disc treatment has become much simpler, sometimes requiring only minimally invasive procedures.
People often tell me that I have bad posture, and recently I've been experiencing back pain when I sit, so that's why I'm at the hospital.
In most cases, you can be diagnosed through a simple X-ray or MRI. Herniated discs mostly occur between the 4th and 5th vertebrae, or the 5th and sacrum, because this area carries much of the body's weight and is moved around a lot. In this case, an endoscopic laser can be used to reshape the disc. Using a thin spinal endoscopy, the problematic area is removed with laser assistance. It preserves the healthy disc tissue, allowing it to provide cushioning. Also, a procedure called CT image-guided spinal microtherapy can be used, allowing the doctor to find a route through stimulations to reduce the time required for the detailed treatment. Epidural neurolysis removes scar tissue around the entrapped nerves and injects medication to reduce pain. Most patients will experience a reduction in pain after such treatments.
What's great about the laser endoscopic treatment is that we're able to remove the fundamental cause just as we would with surgery, and there's no need to go under general anesthesia, only requiring a small incision. The recovery is extremely fast, and the patient is able to return to his or her daily routine very quickly.
Korean medicine also offers treatment for herniated discs. Choi Seung-hee, who has struggled with back pain for a long time, says the pain is gradually subsiding along with the treatment she is receiving. Pungchim acupuncture deters inflammation to prevent nerve damage and encourage regrowth. The venom used in this method is extracted from bees and carries properties that can help treat inflammation.
If you receive bong chim acupuncture, the area may feel itchy and swell up, but this is not a bad symptom. It's actually because the immune cells are becoming more active, and we use this element for treatment.
Other than this, there's puhang, or cupping, that releases bad blood in the system and toxins. Also, chuna treatment helps release the internal buildup and pressure between the vertebrae to reduce the stress on the nerves and encourage better flow in nutrients. Recently, a new herbal medicine that can help treat and prevent disc herniations has received a patent. The medicine includes ingredients such as sokdan and hyeonosek, which help reduce the inflammation in the disc tissue and recover the damaged ligaments and muscles.
The good thing about herbal medicine for the spine is that people with sensitive stomachs can experience heartburn, diarrhea, or constipation when it comes to regular medicine. But this can minimize those side effects. If the conditions are not that severe, taking it for just a month can bring about sufficient effects. And in severe cases, it will take about 3 to 6 months.
Herniated discs require early detection and treatment. It's key to maintain awareness and to find the right method to deal with back pain.
So nowadays, people try to stay away from surgery because all of these different less invasive procedures to treat herniated discs. So do the methods differ from the patient's age or gender, perhaps?
Not much with the age or the genders. However, to explain simple, this process is done to the patient who the surgery seems too much, but it doesn't get better with the simple injections. Epidural we use these flexible catheters. So we put this into the opening of the sacrum, and between the bone and the neural structures, we make an adhesiolysis, which means we remove the adhesions and put the inject, and this will wash out the inflammatory cytokines and soothe down the inflammation in the nerve. The other procedure they show on the video is a Pelan that we put this around working channel through the side of the body, and then to remove this herniated disc, we could either remove with laser decompressions or use this forceps to grab it out. Right.
So these procedures are just a one-time event. It takes care of the problem in one treatment, or does it have to be a repeated procedures?
I could not say that it's a definite treatment that it resolves all the symptoms right away. It never comes back. Definite treatment for the spinal stenosis, and this is a surgical decompression. However, if these procedures are done in proper indications, it could be effective as a surgery. And to prolong the treatment effect, it's better to take a sick leave more than a week, even though you can be discharged on the surgery day or the day after. And do not sit on a long time or lift a heavy object.
Okay, well, it seems that whether you have treatment for a herniated disc or whether you don't have a herniated disc, one of the best methods of not getting a herniated disc is prevention. Can you give us some methods, maybe some exercises, perhaps?
Okay. In our hospital, we have a central treatment, which is a 3D stabilization method that strengthens the back and abdominal muscles and surrounding the spine. The lower half of the body is locked while the machine moves 360 degrees front, back, and sideways to exercise as it is needed. There's also a slings therapy that helps to strengthen muscular power, endurance, and balance. And I would say the best exercise is walking. I tell my patients to walk for more than 30 minutes to an hour every day with running shoes on, fix the time, walk so that it becomes a routine. This will make you feel healthy and stay in shape and lose weight and strengthen your back muscle. And the best key is to have a good posture is the best key to the health of the spine.
I don't know. I underscored running shoes there. No high heels, running shoes when you're walking. All right. Thank you so much, doctor.
Thank you.
Thank you. In Korea, we have the term tambe kada, which is pretty much kept simple without the unnecessities. So I would explain temple food in that way because it has basically what you need and very little seasoning. At the same time, it is what's called, what you can describe as tambeke. And to get a look at temple food, we're joined by Alex Segrist. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Happy St. Patrick's Day. But rather than focus on that, we have more healthy food coming up, and that is temple food, like you said. And it was a really interesting weekend because I got to go to the Seoul International Buddhism Expo, which put on display a lot of these foods. Now you got to make food there, you got to experience it, taste it. And it was a really, really good experience. Lots of people, lots of foreigners even were there. But don't take my word for it. Let's go ahead and take a look at what was in store. Now, of course, there's a lot of growing interest in temple food these days, but with this growing interest, there's obviously a lot of opportunities to learn about it. Now, one of these places that you can learn about it is with the Venerable Sun Jae. She's a master of temple food, and her teaching was impeccable. Her class is always packed. There's actually a waiting list in the thousands for this.
Wow.
It was a great class to be a part of.
Roughly 180 people take classes here every week. We have 6 classes, and including those that I teach outside of here, it's a total of 8. We have a long waiting list, and sometimes the numbers even go over 5,000.
Now, with such popularity, temple food has established itself as a unique cuisine. But the nice part about it, though, is it's not really bound by the confines of religion. It's for anybody.
I know that temple food is good for you and that it's vegetarian, but I wanted to know more specifically how it's beneficial, so that's why I'm taking this class.
My family members really enjoy it. It's been a year since I've taken this class, and I really feel a lot healthier.
So let's do a little bit of background here. For some 1,700 years, temple food's been enjoyed in Korea, really after Buddhism was introduced during the era of the Three Kingdoms. Now, no meat, no fish, and actually no oshinche. These are these 5 ingredients that have too much of a strong smell to it. That's wild chives, onions, garlic, leek, and scallions. All the dishes are vegetarian, using natural
Instead
spices.
of the 5 strong ingredients, we use things like perilla seeds or pyogo mushrooms and dried radish to bring out a deeper, richer taste. It's good for the body because it allows it to more readily absorb healthy ingredients.
Now, the food doesn't have this overpowering taste and scent that you get nowadays. It's a very clean taste. By using ingredients that are seasonal, you get these medicinal qualities, these healthy benefits that come with it. Now, last year, the Cultural Core of Korean Buddhism conducted a study over the course of 8 months using 34 temple food dishes. Now, here's where it gets interesting. If you consumed temple food in this study, you dropped 2.6% in your body fat percentage. And overall cholesterol, you dropped 21 milligrams per deciliter, obviously showing the healthiness of this food.
In the case of temple food, you can eat a variety of namul or vegetables that are in season. The rices cooked with grains and other sugars are made with natural ingredients, so you can eat healthier foods.
So of course there's another element behind temple food that encourages healthy eating. And it's the idea that consuming food in 4 different dishes can help you reduce the amount of food. And also, you're not allowed to have leftovers, only eating what is necessary. The method of eating paru gong yang is used by Buddhist monks. And as you're eating it, you're of course supposed to reflect on every single bite that you take. The cuisine goes beyond the element of food and is popular for this time of reflection to remember where it came from nature and from those who prepared it. Now, this was all very good, but I got to experience something a little bit different. In this particular place, as with other places nowadays, are highlighting the beauty in the colors of the food and the shapes to taste better for, let's just say, regular people like myself. It gave a more sensory experience. Now, although they abide by the basic rules, no meat, no oshinche, temple food has been reborn with these more vibrant colors and vibrant smells as well. And they bring in customers from all over the world. So having tasted all of this temple food, I really got kind of to experience a little bit of the tradition as well as some of the good taste. And I don't feel like an ounce of guilt at all after eating this. You know, it feels healthy. I feel a little bit better after eating this. And I'm overall completely satisfied with everything that I've experienced here. So do a lot of customers come to find this particular temple food setup?
A lot of Korean customers visit our store, but we get a lot of foreigners, especially vegetarians or Muslims, who can't eat certain foods. When they go back to their home country, they tell other people about us if they've had a satisfying experience. So now we expect the number of foreign visitors to exceed our local clients.
So the growing interest in temple food both in and outside of Korea was noticeable at the festival held last week, where a large number of foreign visitors, including myself, also came to experience the cuisine. Now, a lot of people gathered to make mul kimchi with lotus roots. It's a type of this food, and it's showing how popular it has become recently.
Very healthy and kind of fit in the slow life. I think nowadays people just live too fast and they eat too much like meat. Animals, so we need more vegetable and be more healthy.
I've done 3 temple stays so far, and I like the idea that you're not supposed to have any leftovers. Like, you're not supposed to waste anything. I think that's a very good concept. So much food gets wasted. So I think it's very healthy and it tastes very good. But I also like this concept of not trying to throw so much food away.
There were 11 temples that put on display their special recipes. They brought out their food, and they showed some really delicious food to all of us, really. Temple food, like kimchi and other seasonal foods, were laid out for the visitors to take a look at.
At festivals like this, we can promote what we've developed and help people easily understand temple food. You can sit in on a lecture here and try out things yourself.
So temple food seeks to produce tastes that are a little bit closer to nature. It's kind of a little bit more natural, and it was really good.
In essence, we could call it vegan food, right?
It's very close to it. I don't know all the rules of veganism, but it was pretty close. I mean, they cut back on fish as well, and some other things that were made out of animal products. So it's certainly something that is attracting a lot of people because of it.
Some people make the mistake of thinking of temple food and only vegetable dishes, namul,
Right.
but it's not. It's got lots of nuts as well as beans too.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I really found out when I was making the food and also just walking around. It's not just namu. You have beans, you have soybeans, you have certain types of potatoes. I mean, you have this large variety that comes. The noodles, actually japchae was one of my favorite things I got to taste because it was really fresh. And everything from the jjigae as well. There was just a lot of options going around right there.
And also the dishes that give that modern twist to the traditional temple food.
A little coloring.
Right, that was quite interesting. And for those of us that want to go out to take part in these cooking classes that you showed in your report, how can we sign up?
Well, one of the ways is, of course, to go online or to read some of the Buddhist publications that are out there. Now, the one that I was in, that line is long. That's about a year for waiting.
Wow.
I mean, that particular one is a very famous one, a very popular one. But there's places around, there's about 30 different ones that you can get directly from Buddhist centers or temples. There's 20 where you can get them from department stores or culture centers. So really you just need to go online and look for a 3 to 6 month course and you're able to do it yourself.
Or visit a nearby temple. If you're lucky, maybe they'll serve you a bowl of rice with some namul on the side.
So what do you think, Alex? A future in temple food now?
You know what? It was actually surprisingly good and healthy, so I'm okay with putting a little bit more into my diet. Not 100%,
Sounds
but
great. Thank you so much. See you next week. All right, well, that's just about does it for this edition of Korea Today.
That's right, a little bit of the particulate fine dust out there. Beware of that, and we'll see you back here tomorrow morning at 7 a.m.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.